It's Dr. Pat here, and we're looking at part three, rates of change in a graphical perspective. So we'll do our calculations this way. So here I got a graph of, Gallup poll index of investor optimism. So how people are viewing, basically how the economy is doing. So when this is higher values, that means people are looking at things and thinking things are going well. And then when we have low values, that's basically people viewing the economy as not going well. Okay, so that's what we're looking at, optimism. All right, so we've got looking three different questions. So what is the average rate of change between December '07 and February '09? What's the average rate of change for a 4-month period after February '08? And then what 2-month time period had the worst rate of change? Okay, so those are our three questions that we're going to answer using this graph. All right, so our first one is we're going from rate of change. You may remember rate of change is just another way of saying slope. So that's all we're looking for. And we're looking for the slope between these two data points or these two time frames. So December '07, that's where we're starting right here. So we're looking at, whoops, don't want to cover up that number. We're looking at this data point right here. And then we're going all the way to February '09. So we're looking at this data point right here. And what we want to do is calculate the slope. So when I'm looking at a time periods, these are in terms of months. I know there's a different changes years here, but this is a graph that's really made in terms of months, so that's why I'm looking at it in terms of month units there for my time. And so we are going from 57. Our first data point is 57, and our ending data point here has a y value of 6. So with slope ideal, I'm doing y2 minus y1 over t2 minus t1. Okay, so that's kind of what we're playing with here. And so I'm counting this as t equals 0. And then this would be to, let's see, February, March, April. How about that's 4 and that's 6. There's an 8 and there's a 10. There's a 12. Now I'm into the next year, so that's going to make a 14. So that is, if you're wondering where I got this 14, that's how I did it. I started off here with, this is time 0, month 0, and then this is the 14th months later. And so I'm kind of working that way. I'm taking the differences of the y values over the difference in the time periods. Okay, and so then just crunching that out, looks like we're going down 3.6 points per month. So it's a tough time there on average, going down. Okay, so that's what we're looking at for that first question. It's a slope between two distinct points. That's what we're playing with. Now on the second question, it's also a slope because we're looking at this average rate of change idea right here. But this time we're talking about a 4-month period. And so that means we know the change in time. This is the change in time. Okay, and so technically what I know already is I'm going to have 4 in the denominator. That's what happens with when you know your change in time, you already know what your denominator is going to be. We're looking at starting here at February '08, so I'm using this data point, and then 4 months later is this data point right here. And so we're going to use these two y values. 62 is the starting y value, y1, this is y1 here, and this will be y2. And so that's why you're seeing this 50 minus 62, because it's y2 minus y1. And crunching that out, we got a decrease on average of 3 points per month. Does that mean we actually had a decrease of 3 points for a month period? No, that just means on average. That's the key thing. When we're playing with these things, it's on average. You're going to notice that nowhere do we actually have a decrease of that same slope. This first 2 months are actually steeper, and then these 2 months are actually increasing. So what's happening is this average really doesn't happen at any of the months, but it does reflect the combination of those 4 months. So that's got to be the one thing you got to keep in mind when we talk about average rates of change. We're talking about the net effect. It's just an average. We're not talking about what's actually happening each month. Okay, so just want to keep that in mind. And then the next one that we have, this third question, is which 2-month period had the worst rate of change? And when you're talking optimism, a worst rate of change would be the most negative. So we are looking here for the most negative part of the graph. Most negative, I'm trying to say that. All right, so that's what we're looking for. We're looking for the steepest part of the graph that's going down, not going up, but going down. And so when looking at this graph, I have a lot of students who like this as the answer. Going from January to February, this little part of the graph is looking pretty darn steep. But the catch is this is not the appropriate answer to this question. Why? Because I'm looking for a 2-month period of time. So I need an interval of 2 months. This steep part of the graph right here has an interval of only 1 month. That's from January to February. That is only 1 month. So it does not satisfy the 2-month period that I'm looking for. So the steepest part of a 2-month period is this part of the graph right here. It's a little bit steeper than this section that you see, this long section here. Now, how do I know how to do this? How do I know which is the steepest? Is what you want to do is take a ruler, take a straight edge, take a credit card. Send me your credit card number. Just joking, no. So what I mean by this is take a straight edge, go it from one point to another point, you have your graph. And then what you try and do, this is really kind of weird, is you take that and hold your straight edge, keep the same angle, and just move it left or right, keeping it the same angle. And when you do that, you take this, line up your straight edge, and you move it to the right here, you're going to find out that it's actually a little bit steeper, okay, than what you see on this graph. So it's all about using a straight edge or a ruler, and that's how you can compare things in terms of who's the steepest. Okay, so I'm going to go to another graph, and let's take a look at increasing, decreasing really quickly. All right, on this graph, basically what we're looking for is where is this graph increasing, decreasing, and I kind of already given away. So what you're seeing right here is in red, I'm basically trying to indicate that that part of the graph is decreasing. Now, how do I know decreasing, increasing? Remember that what we do for increasing, decreasing statements, we always go left to right. Okay, so why we have to agree to this is because if you're standing at the top of the stairs and I'm at the bottom of a stairs, is those stairs going up or down? And we'd both be answering differently because it's a matter of perspective. So when the mathematics community or whoever made these decisions way back in, when we decided what we mean by increasing, decreasing, we had to agree that we were going to go left or right. So as we go left or right on this graph, as we go this direction, this graph is going up, and that's increasing. Now notice here, this middle part at the top there, the tabletop, that's constant. Okay, so that we would say that that's a constant y value, and so that one is actually not going up or down at all. No increasing, decreasing right there. We've got a decreasing, and again another spot right here where it's constant, and then increasing, then decreasing. And so for my increasing, decreasing indications, here are my intervals of increasing and decreasing using interval notation. And so we're starting here at -5 and up to -3. Now notice these are parentheses. These are not square brackets, because when we talk about increasing, decreasing, we do not include the endpoints, these transitions, because at these points, are we going up or are we constant? These transitions, these corners, the endpoints, we do not include. Okay, so do not include those. Those are all open circles when talking about increasing, decreasing. So it's always a parentheses for us, not a square brackets, when we talk about increasing, decreasing. So I've got two sections, two intervals, two parts of this graph that are increasing, and then decreasing from 0 to 2 and 4 to 5. Now notice when we talk about increasing, decreasing, it's always the x values we give as our answer, not the y values, it's the x values. Reason being, x values tell where on the graph. Y values don't. Because you only get one X value, you can have repeated Y values, and that's not going to be able to tell us where, because that would create confusion. But we always use just a single X value. Okay, hey, hope this helps. Take care. Talk to you later.